In today's episode, we discuss several news articles and stories in the property sector which could affect landlords and homeowners. In our first story, we discuss the knock-on effects of increasing capital gains tax and how Labour may have set the stage for a CGT rate increase. Next, we discuss the recent Rightmove versus OpenRent dispute, the potential causes of it, and what it spells for other property portals, online letting agents, and landlords. Up next is Labour's resurrection of EPC Level C for all PRS stock and whether this is even possible or necessary for the sector. And finally, we touch on the sales market post interest rate cut. Has there been a noticeable uptick in activity, or is the market still in a state of trepidation? Without further ado, let's get started. Should we start on the CGT?
Yeah, let's start there.
Now, I'm looking at it two ways. They increase it. So basically, just to try and get an understanding from it, right now you're sitting at 18% or 24%, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so, yeah.
So the increase, if it does happen, how does that benefit property owners that are looking to sell a property? Where's the logic in it is what I want to find out.
Well, it doesn't. Long story short, it doesn't benefit property owners or landlords in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, if you're just selling your primary residence, that is your main residence, not an investment property, you won't be affected by capital gains tax. However, if you are selling an investment property, your second house, that's when you get hit by it. In Labour's own words, they have an over £20 billion hole that they've inherited from the Conservatives, which they then need to find the funding to fill. So increasing capital gains tax is one of those ways of finding revenue without affecting the average.
Well, what she said is, so let's read this. So when Rachel Reeves was asked whether she would consider increasing the rate of CGT, she responded saying this: "Of course you need to bring in the revenue to fund vital public services," just as you were saying. "But we've also got to grow the economy. I won't do anything that makes it harder to achieve that economic growth and prosperity." So that's what she said. Those were her words.
Yeah.
Now, as let's say you're a property owner and you have multiple properties, you're looking at now going, okay, so this comes out, if it does come out in the autumn budget, how long does that usually take for it to go into fruition? Because let's say, for example, by the time they announce it, you've got to, when it comes into play, landlords are going to want to shift their properties. They've got a time frame where they're going to want to they've got two options: either stay in the game for a long period of time or they try and sell it now. But it's funny because that also will coincide with the no fault evictions on Section 21.
Yeah.
So not only, let's say, for example, they've got a tenant in there, they go through the section, we all know what's happening there, no fault evictions. However, you've now got the CGT risen. It's scaring landlords is what it's doing.
Yeah.
It's scaring landlords. With that added to this, they're now going, well, we want to just get out of the game. Why stay in the game?
Yeah, exactly. Because not only are your profit margins becoming shorter, you're now given less avenues to regain access to your property. And when you want to sell it, you'll then face the prospect of paying more because the property has simply made a profit in the years that you've come to own it.
So it's crazy to think how the industry will react.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, nothing is confirmed as of yet. We have to wait until the autumn budget to actually get those, concrete figures. But I mean, it's not the best news if you're a landlord or a property investor, is it? Because any sort of jumps like capital gains tax massively impacts your potential earnings from that profit. Because some people might be setting it up as a pension fund, some people might be setting up their children to take over. Yeah, it's narrowly mining away at that viability.
Yeah. Which makes you think, is that why? Because they're talking about the institutions coming in and taking over
having massive blocks of units and stuff. Yeah.
Is that a way for them to start coming in to run it as, let's say you've got, let's call it 10 landlords, and you say 7 of them go, you know what, it's time to get out of the game. I don't want to be in it anymore. I'll just sell it now. They're offloading their stock to, let's say a company who will then come in, like the John Lewis, like the whoever else is buying these portfolios, and have a portfolio which is run as a company, which then it's obviously easier to tax by the government in order for that to happen. Is that a conspiracy theory, or is that, do you think, something that they would actually be thinking about?
Well, it's in their best interest. As I said last time, it's the same thing with selective licensing and HMO licensing. You're not incentivized to run that as an individual landlord. In some constituencies, you're even required to have a managing agent or an actual manager of the property who's personally held accountable if it falls into disrepair or infringes on the tenant's, basic rights. So if you're applying that to a grander scale, you're getting rid of these rogue landlords who are maybe I don't know, they're letting out a subpar property.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting rid of those and you're replacing it with a company which will take full responsibility and be signed on every single piece of relevant documentation. They can't run. It can be taxed and they can't run away from it.
Yeah.
It's easier for them to be chased.
That's true, and that's what they want. I mean, like I said the same before. It's very much like Europe,
Yeah.
how they run it there. So, well, I guess we'll see what happens in the autumn budget. I'm guessing they're waiting for the market to see how they react. If the market is in absolute uproar, they might think twice about adding it in. But if it's kind of put out there now, hey, this might be coming in, it might not.
Mm.
If the market turn around like, you know what, other things to worry about, we're not even focusing on that, they might just throw it in.
Yeah.
In the budget, the autumn budget.
Yeah.
We shall see. Let's go to the next topic. Rightmove and OpenRent.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me read this first bit, and then obviously I want to get your thoughts on it. I've got a lot of thoughts as well. So the UK's largest letting agency, OpenRent, which until now represented 8% of all Rightmove's rental property listings, will leave the portal after negotiations over pricing broke down. So Rightmove has terminated its agreement with OpenRent with effect from 1st of September 2024 after negotiations between the two organisations broke down over pricing. What's your thoughts on that?
I just think it spells quite a bad sight for many other rivals to Rightmove. Also, self-managing landlords, things like that. OpenRent has got a pretty good reputation for being a very valuable service for any landlord who's just looking for an advertising service. So you pay OpenRent and they advertise on Zoopla, Prime Location, Rightmove, and other property portals like that. Now, if you take Rightmove out of the equation, which is responsible for, I think it has over double the traffic that Zoopla has, which is its second competitor. You're looking at a lot of potential tenants who won't see a particular listing for a let. It's clearly a sign that Rightmove, obviously having the lion's share of all property portals, it can only solidify itself further in the market because it can afford to hike up its prices and force these larger companies out of using its service in order to, I think, solidify itself as the one-stop shop for all property rentals.
So if they broke down over negotiations,
Mm-hmm.
and someone will say, yeah, but Kian, the Rightmove are charging an arm and a leg. Everyone should boycott Rightmove because I've seen that in the
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
comments. I mean, what can you say to that? It depends on how much obviously Rightmove are charging and
yeah.
what deal they had in the first
Yes,
place.
yeah, yeah,
Like you said, Rightmove is the leading portal,
yeah.
right? If I'm going to check what's online, I go Rightmove, then Zoopla. I don't even check OpenRent. I don't even check it.
No, because they rely on tenants and prospective renters going to these other sites. So OpenRent is only really seen by the landlords that's putting it on there.
Yeah.
So it's funny, a lot of the discourse you see online is all coming from perspective of people who are already in the letting game. So I'd imagine they're either landlords, letting agents, people who have, as I said, skin in the game. Whereas they can all boycott if they want. In theory, they could say, right, let's not use Rightmove. At the end of the day, it's still the users on the other end, i.e., prospective renters and home buyers who are still using Rightmove in their droves. Responsible for the vast majority of Rightmove's traffic is the end user, the people who are looking for the properties. So why would they voluntarily not use the leading platform to look for property that's in their best interest?
So you don't think it will hurt Rightmove in any way?
It has the potential to. I think I read somewhere that OpenRent has around less than 8% of Rightmove's lettings listings in total, which is around 700 branches, give or take. Granted, it's still a big number, but I mean, they can afford to put prices up across the board because, other agents have fear of not using it and losing out on potential business and finding the right client. They can make up that revenue in other places.
I wonder if OpenRent had a one-off charge that they charge the owners.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? If so, they would charge the owners, and then they would put it onto the portal. So it would be a
Yes.
one-off. Let's say if you're a landlord who just had a property, you just wanted to put it one time. Okay. So it depends. Do you think I'm wondering whether the negotiations would have broke down because Rightmove upped the price to OpenRent, or OpenRent aren't getting enough traffic that they used to in order to keep supplying Rightmove with the same Funding.
Potentially. I mean, regardless of how you look at it, it all boils down to the the same thing, I think. No, it all comes back to the fact that Rightmove are in this position where they can afford to lose a client that's as big as
Hmm.
OpenRent because it has countless other users and countless other letting agents to use it.
Yeah, I'll be interested to know. I'd love to run a poll to actually find out 1, 2, or 3, Rightmove, Zoopla, and OpenRent,
Yeah.
and just look at the stats compared to who's used what and who would return as well.
Yeah. But I mean, it could also present an opportunity for other online letting agent or a competitor, if you like, to OpenRent.
Hmm.
You have other services that offer the same thing. They can put your property on different portals, who are still advertising being able to put it on the Zoopla, on the Rightmove, and on Prime Location or your other ones. So it gives them obviously an opportunity. But how long until Rightmove catches on and also charges them an exorbitant
Yeah.
fee? They're in this position where they can sort of seek out all the competitors. Obviously, Zoopla has a traffic and user base that's so big that it can support itself. Other platforms and portals can't do that at the moment.
Can't do that. No, that'll be yeah. I'm interested to see how it's going to turn out and see where OpenRent go next.
Yeah.
Because if they haven't got Rightmove anymore, what type of business are they going to be taking in if they haven't found another platform to get back out? And I can only imagine that's why the landlords that are looking to advertise their property go through OpenRent, because they don't want to they can't pay the Rightmove fee.
They can't, right? Yeah.
They pay that, and then they know that their property is going to be advertised and exposed to more clients. So you
Seen
take
by
that
the
away.
yeah.
Where are those landlords going to go to? Because if your house isn't getting eyeballs from a platform, what's going to happen to that platform? Because then they're not going to want to use it, and there'll be another alternative.
Yeah, exactly. It gives rise to other competition. But I don't think that Rightmove's dominance over the sector will be affected in the long run. I don't think so.
No, I completely agree with you on that one. You look at the EPC requirements for
Yes.
landlords. So
Yes.
Labour confirms minimum EPC requirements for land. I'm sure this has been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
So the energy minister says landlords will need to attain an energy performance certificate band C for their properties by 2030. Labour plans to make all properties being let out achieve an EPC rating of C or above by 2030 or face potential bans on letting properties. So ensuring warmer, healthier, private rented homes will lift many families out of fuel poverty and reduce energy bills.
So the Conservatives also had this in their rental reform bill.
Mhm.
And they also wanted to have every single property in the private rental sector on a rating of C or above by 2028. Ultimately, they dropped it, I think, in September last year, September 2023. And obviously, they were pro-rogue before anything else could happen. No more progress could be made, so it was dropped. Labour, who are trying to pick up certain dropped legislation, such as a Section 21 banning, and it's the same thing here. They've picked up this energy performance legislation and they're trying to make it work again, except this time by 2030. Even saying the repercussions for not complying could be a banning on letting out your property.
It can be a banning.
It can lead to a banning on letting out your property. However,
Interesting.
there are obviously shortcomings in the EPC system and how it gauges a property's energy efficiency, quote unquote. It's really not a one size fits all approach. So I think
No.
they need to really change how EPCs are rated before they can really make this into legislation.
Yeah, as you're saying, it's great. However, there's certain properties that just it can't happen to. We've got under the lettings portfolio that we have, we've got a block of apartments, all electric heating. The whole block is all electric heating. Now they come at a band D, I think it is.
Yeah.
A band D. I think some of them here in E at the moment is E and above.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I think some come in at an E. We've looked at ways that you can increase the EPC rating on it. There isn't any.
No.
There's nothing unless you knock down the building and rebuild it. It hasn't got a gas supply, so it's all electric heating. Yes, you can change a few windows, but the windows there are pretty decent as they are, double glazed, newly done. They're not bad. The only ones you are able to do is the top floor.
Yeah.
So with the top floor, what you can do is you can create a false ceiling and fill that with insulation.
Yeah.
And that's only the top floor flats. The rest of them are all going to fail. So what's going to happen with that building? Everyone's got to move out and it just
rots.
it rots. Yeah, they have to change the system in order for look, everything is becoming new legislation. Everything's becoming modern. But there's certain things that they haven't changed, and that's how they do the EPCs.
Mm-hmm.
That's still the same. That hasn't changed. I mean, and now they're looking at new builds and they're comparing it to new builds. New builds are ratings an A and a B.
Yeah.
That's just standard because it's had everything to fit the bill now.
Yeah.
But old Victorian houses or the flats in the rental that we have under management in the rental, there's nothing you can do. So then, like you said, it's not one size fits all, is it? You got to look at the property and figure out how we can make it work.
Yeah, a lot of these houses you can't retroactively apply EPC. That's what I mean. You need to actually make it fair for these older properties. It's not fair they should be either knocked down or have large internal works done, because that's what will not only damage the character of the house in itself, but it's not ultimately necessary.
Yeah.
Really. It still functions properly by keeping heat in or out, depending on the time of the year, and keeping the cold out. It's not poor fundamentally, is it?
No.
But it's all in an attempt to reach a net zero by a certain time.
I checked my EPC where I live, and mine is actually a band B. It's got a potential for an A. I think I'm 1 point off an A.
Yeah.
And on the EPC rating, in order to get it to an A, I should put solar panels on.
Yeah.
Which they said will cost around, I think, around £3,000 or something like that, right? It says it on there. And the saving I'll get is £30 a year. So I'm looking at it going, yeah, no, I don't need it.
Yeah.
I'll pass on it. There's always a way that they'll try to obviously get it up there.
I think that's what they cited. They said in an attempt to bring energy bills down in general.
Yeah.
Without taking into consideration the cost that it takes to bring these D, E, F properties up to C, if they even can.
Yeah. So that's going to be by 2030.
2030.
2030.
Assuming that becomes law.
I'm sure it'll change by then.
Yeah.
And the last topic, which is the UK housing market optimism boosted by interest rate cut. So the recent interest rate cut by the Bank of England has set the stage for renewed optimism in the UK housing market. After years of economic uncertainty, the bank's decision to reduce interest rates for the first time since 2020 signals a cautious but positive outlook on controlling inflationary pressures. The Monetary Policy Committee voted 5-4 in favour of the reduction, making it a significant moment for home buyers and the property market. If you're asking, have I seen a change since they've reduced it? I'm gonna be honest and say no. I haven't seen a change. Not yet anyway, but we are on the summer holidays.
Yeah.
So obviously you've got to take that into account. Obviously it's gone from 5.25 to 5. They were talking about another reduction in, I'm gonna say November, but I might be wrong. Whether it happened, probably not. To me, I'm looking at the market right now. It's been a few days. I haven't seen any significant change in the market. And that's just a personal view. Obviously, it might be different everywhere else. I still think that the house prices are still too far out of affordability for a lot of people.
Yeah. I.e., it's perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Prospective buyers are looking at these properties and thinking that's not sufficient value for the money that I'm willing to spend. So they're holding on to their money, seeing where the market will go, maybe a few months, half a year's time, and see where it goes.
Because you're getting conflict in information as well, because some people are saying the housing market is going to boom. It's going to go through the roof, right? It's going to increase. I don't know how far more it can go. We've hit a good run. Saying it's going to go up, the housing prices. Some people are saying in 2 years' time, we're going to see the start of a recession or a huge downturn. It depends where you are on the scale. If I'm looking for a long-term family home, if I'm looking for a long term, I want to stay there 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years. If I'm looking for that in a position to move, I will jump on now and I'd find the home I'm looking for. If I'm in a position where I'm looking for a quick 1 or 2 years and then move on from there, then I'd probably just sit where I am. Because if the market does take that downturn, that'll give me more of a reason and an opportunity to then jump in when it's on the downturn. And the interest rates, mortgage rates, may have come down a little bit more by then. Who knows? We don't know. But right now, you're still sitting at a higher rate and a higher house. So like I said, if you're looking for long term, then yeah, I'll jump on it. Short term, personally, I'd probably wait to see what happens with the market. What's your take on it? Have you seen a difference?
Not massively. I think there are probably a lot more people putting the feelers out in terms of finding mortgages in principle, shopping around to see what kind of rate they can get. However, once they see the stock on the market, as you've said, still quite high, especially compared to what we've been used to over the last few years with the lower mortgage rates. I think people are still going to be holding on to their capital, staying where they are if they can. If you're not in an emergency to move for a while, as you
Yeah.
said, I just think will happen.
I think if you give it a few years, if you're not in a rush, obviously if you have to go, you have to go. But if you don't, just sit, wait it out, see what happens. Labour's obviously got a 5-year plan where they're looking to build 1.5 million houses
Million
within
houses.
5 years.
They've
Obviously,
increased, obviously, that target from what it was before.
yeah. If that happens and they do flood the market with more, everyone's saying that we're in a property shortage at the moment
Yeah.
because no one's moving. But obviously, if they flood the market with more properties and it then increases buyers' opportunity to have a lot more stock to look at, in turn, the house prices should really start coming down because now you've got to pick.
Yep.
Right now we're in a seller's market.
Yep.
You turn it into a buyer's market. Now there's a choice. There's a pick. So let's say, for example, if they flood the market, property prices come down, interest rates stay where they are, mortgage rates stay where they are. Do you think that will increase more buyers to buy if the house prices are lower, but the rates are still where they are? I think they will.
It has to.
Yeah, I think if your property is worth what the buyer thinks it's worth, and let's say they sold it, I don't think that if they can afford the monthly amount, even though it is a little bit higher than what they used to, they would be happy to do it because they've got the house that they want at the price they want.
Mm-hmm.
So monthly repayments on the mortgage, it could be higher than normal, but they're in their dream home, let's say.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at it right now, you've got the rates which are high and the houses which are high. One is people can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Two, they go, yeah, I love that house, but do I love it enough that I want to be tight every month?
Yeah, considering that you might even have to make reparations to the property,
Yeah.
internal work you want to do for yourself. You're then already living on a tighter budget than you'd like, and then trying to budget for internal works. You're put in a situation where you've got to really wait to see the property that you want and see that done. So if you are, as you said, if you're in a fortunate enough position to wait, I think you will.
That's it for today's episode. As always, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Join us next time with a special guest as we discuss property cycles, whether the property market is heading for a crash or a boom, and the signs to look out for. In the meantime, keep an eye out on our socials for more property investing advice, guides, and legislation breakdowns. Or if you want to get in touch with us directly, give us a call or email in and we can discuss your property needs.